everybody, welcome back. Today I want to go over one of the most essential tools in rock guitar, power chords. Whether you're into rock, punk, metal, classic rock, doesn't matter, power chords are everywhere. By the end of this lesson, hopefully with these power chords, you'll be able to play some of your favorite riffs too. First, what exactly is a power chord? Power chord is a chord played with two notes, a root and the fifth. Let me explain a little basic music theory. In music, we build chords with a scale. The most common scale we use is the major scale, which follows this pattern. Whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. Or tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. Let me demonstrate. On the fretboard, if I were to play an E major scale, I would start on my root, which is E. I would go 2 frets, which is 1 whole step or tone, another whole step, a half step, another whole step, another whole step, another whole step, and then a half step. And we end back at the E. So we go from our root E to our octave E. There's 7 notes in our 7 natural notes in our language, in our Western music language, right? So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then we repeat back to A. Between your B and C and between your E and F, there's only a semitone or a half step. So in between all of our other notes, there are sharps and flats. Now, when I say root note, that's the note that we start on. So in this case, I started on E and I end it back at the root on E. Let's take a look at a G major scale. So we can actually play that here on our G string and go G, go whole step, half step, and then go whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. Now, we normally play not necessarily up and down the fretboard in our scale. We play across the fretboard in our scale. So if I take that same G root note and I make that into a major scale across the fretboard, I'd start at my G here on the 3rd fret. So what I did was I played this pattern, 3rd fret and then 5th fret. Then I moved to my A string and I played the 2nd, 3rd, 5th fret. Then moved to my D string and played the 2nd fret, the 4th fret, and then the 5th fret. That follows the same whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half pattern, just across the fretboard. Now, keeping that in mind, if I were to play that same scale, that's my root, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I know within that scale I can play my root and my 5th, which happens to be 1 string up or down on the fretboard, depending on how you look at it. So 3rd fret, 5th fret on my A string. So 3rd on my E, 5th on my A. If I play those two together, I'm playing a power chord. Now if I played the rest of that scale, I would end on the 5th fret on my D string, which is actually the root note again. So I can add that in if I'd like and play all 3 notes. So that's my root, my 5th, and my root again. So it's up to you how you play. you can use your 2-note power chord or your 3-note power chord. And that's the same formula on your E string and your A string. So if I wanted to play G, I would play my root on the 3rd fret of my E string. I could slide up to my A, which is the 5th fret, my B, which is the 7th fret. I can go to my 5th string and play my C on the 3rd fret, 5th fret play D, and then on my 7th fret play E. So if you get to know your E and A strings, where the notes are, you can play any power chord up and down those 2 strings with just 2 notes. Now, with those 2 notes, there's a couple other things you want to make sure you keep in mind. One, we're going to probably want to mute some of our other strings so that we can play pretty aggressively. If we're playing with overdriven tones or a distortion tone, and most of the songs that we're playing power chords are going to be that way, right? They're going to have that tone. I'm going to want to make sure that I take my ring finger, which is the one I normally will fret that 5th, and I want to lay it down a little bit and mute the string below it, okay? Just like that. So I'm only playing the root and the 5th. You can lay that down a little bit once you get a little bit more comfortable with that and bar that ring finger across both your A string and D string, and then play all 3. Just like that. Another way to play it is to play your index finger on the root and then using your ring finger and your pinky on the down 1 over 2 fret, so in this case the 5th fret of my A and D string. And then go to my A, and so on. So what I opened up with was playing Wild Things, and I can play that just going here, and then dropping down to the A string, so in this case it's D, and then up to E on the A string, 7th fret, back down to D, and then back to A. Okay, if I add a little distortion to that, there you go. Now, a couple other ways or techniques that you want to incorporate when you're playing your power chords. I already mentioned muting with your left hand on the fretboard, but you also want to start muting with your right hand across the bridge. So in this case, I would gently rest the side of my palm right in front of the bridge, not directly on top necessarily, but just move it onto the strings a little bit. Practice that, so put a little volume on. You can hear me. I'm muting with my fretting hand, my left hand. Now if I switch that up and I bring my palm over to my strings on my strumming hand, I can move that up and down until I get that tone that I want. So in this case, let me go back to a G power chord, and I'll play it open. I'll put my muting palm here on my right hand. If I want it to ring through a little bit more, I'll pull it back onto the bridge a little bit more. If I want to mute it more, I'll slide it further up towards the pickups. Now, another technique with your fretting hand you're going to want to practice is sliding back and forth between your power chords. There's 2 ways to really move between your power chords. There's lifting off, lifting, going to the next one. So in this case, let me turn the volume up. When I go to move between my power chords, if I want to stop that sound, I'll use my right hand and just put it on the strings. Okay, so I'll play, and then I'll put my palm down on the strings. And then move my hand back down. Now you may not want to cut off that tone completely or that sound. You may want to slide from power chord to power chord. So in this case, I'll go from A down to G. And then G back up to A. So what other things do you need to keep in mind when you're playing your power chords? Well, one, stay relaxed. It's really easy to get tense in your fretting hand and really squeeze into the neck a little bit and squeeze those power chords. What will end up happening is you'll squeeze too much and you'll actually take that chord out of tune. And this will happen with really any chord that we play. Okay, so in this case, let me go back to a clean channel and you'll hear if I just lightly fret the notes versus fretting them really hard. Okay, so if I'm really squeezing, you can hear it go sharp and out of tune. So you want to just fret enough to fret the note and hear it ring out. So in this case, if I don't fret enough, I'm muting, press a little bit more, and I'm fretting the note. There might be a little spot in between sometimes where it makes a tinny sound. That means I'm not pressing hard enough as well. So I'll press just a little bit harder. Start with just the two fingers, index, ring finger. When you get a little more comfortable, bring your pinky in and play all three. So play that root on your third string as well. And if I drop down, same thing. It's the exact same pattern and grip. Now another thing to keep in mind is when you're moving between your chords, as you're moving up the neck into the higher register, your frets are going to get a lot closer versus when we're all the way out here near the nut. Okay, so my hand's going to be a little more spread out here towards the nut, and I'm going to have to tighten them up as I get further and further up the neck. There's going to be a point for me where using my ring and pinky, I can't really comfortably and accurately continue to fret. So I end up using just my ring finger and I bar across those two strings. So there's a lot of songs, thousands of songs that use power chords. A couple really well-known songs. One I played earlier. Wild Things is good to play. You may recognize this. Okay, you can play that. That's relatively simple. Another good one to play is Pat Benatar, Hit Me With Your Best Shot. So you can get that riff down. That's going to get you moving back and forth on the neck quite a bit, and you're going to slide into a lot of those power chords and slide back out, back and forth. Okay, Rock You Like a Hurricane is another good one that you can learn to play. And then one you may not think too much about, but you can learn to play a little Jimi Hendrix, the opening riff here. That's real simple, and that will take you into some of that sliding technique and making sure that you're accurately fretting as you move up and down the fretboard. And you can do that just with the two-finger grip. That's fine. Any of those songs work really well with your power chords, and I'm sure you know 1,000 other ones to practice. But the key here really is being relaxed. Work on your strumming. Whenever you go to play some of these riffs, make sure you use a metronome or try to use a metronome to stay in time. If you have a backing track, you can always play to a backing track. And then have fun just kind of making up your own progressions. Learning these power chords will also help you start to learn some blues progressions from a classic 1-4-5. So that's it for today's lesson on power chords. Go out there, practice power chords, have fun. These open up so many doors, so many songs, so many opportunities for you. If you like this, please like, subscribe, hit the bell notification, and be notified of when I release some more videos. Thanks again for joining me. Out.